Morning, everyone, and welcome to our live broadcast for what's new in PetroVisor. You'll notice you can post comments. Our comments will be public. We'll get to those at the end of the presentation. So let's kick this off. Today, we're joined by myself, Brian Marlborough, the VP of Platform Development and Commercialization, and Kenton Gray, our CTO. So we'll be discussing the platform, some of the enhancements we've made to the platform, be touching on some of the core foundations of the PetroVisor platform and connecting uh, all your disparate enterprise data into a single location. And from there, looking at the data science around characterizing that, building a relational hierarchy, and then being able to consume that data. So we'll focus on some of the enhancements around that today and how it relates to your business, really some of the exciting features that we're rolling out. Right? We focus a lot on R&D and enhancing our products, and today is just another example of how we're moving forward. So we'll be discussing some activities around the data view and the visualization. So that looks at characterizing your data. Once it's centralized, what can we then do with that and look at outliers and really the data science behind that. We have some great DCA enhancements. We'll discuss workflows will be key. So we'll discuss calendar views, how that integrates with teams, how we run views. So think of an example around a maintenance program. So you look to push out scheduled maintenance, schedule that on a calendar and push the notification out via Teams. Right? There's also abilities around the data science for that to look at predictive maintenance. Right? We'll be talking about enhancements for those calendars and the teams and the run view. Some big discussions around the machine learning aspects and some great enhancements there, and as well as the economics dashboards and really getting a great view of the finance aspects and the econ to where all of your assets now connected. Great view and visualizations with what your assets are really producing for you as a company. And so with that, I'm going to hand this over to Kenton at this point. He's going to dive straight into the dashboarding.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Brian. So I always like to kind of start these off by just explaining, how PetroVisor works with regards to new features. So PetroVisor is what we call an evergreen application. So what that means for users of PetroVisor is that we are constantly evolving, adding new features, as you'll see today. And these all are automatically rolled out. There's no costly or manual upgrade process. And you get to enjoy the benefits of these new functionality. So I'm going to jump right in, as Brian said, into what we call our data view. And the data view is all about bringing in all of the different pieces of data from different systems into PetroVisor. And so when we look at this, I just pulled up some economic summary, but this could be any piece of data, whether it be reservoir data, production data, anything that you have inside PetroVisor is visible and visualizable in this. So this is a really commonly used tool for things like data cleansing, understanding exactly how your data is distributed. And you can obviously view it, export it, and modify it right through here. But what I'm going to focus on and what we've spent a lot of time on is the charting view. And so in this example, we're looking at basically the economics of the wells and looking at our different operating expenses. And you can see this chart looks a little funny. And the reason is because we have these very large values that are blocking some of these smaller values from showing up. So what we've done to help with that is we've released a whole new chart styling libraries. So I'm going to just pull this up, and you can see what we've done is we're able to add multiple axes. So you can look at smaller data in conjunction with larger data values and even use different chart types and visualizations. All this functionality really makes it where you can take any question you have and visualize it in the PetroVisor platform. So all this functionality is inside the chart settings. And so I won't go through all of them, but you can see that we've really expanded this view. So I can go and say exactly how I want to represent different pieces of data inside this, this chart. I can switch the axes out and understand exactly how that's going to affect the different readings. and really make this your own and save this for later so you can quickly use this visualization again. Moving on to the DCA module. This is something that we've really put a lot of development effort in adding new features onto. And what we've really focused on in this last round was completing the process of reviewing and executing your DCAs. So I'll pull up a fit here. And what you can see is that we've added EUR and some other key metrics at the very top, so it's very visible. And all this is live data that is connected to your systems and constantly updating as you go through. In this example, I have a fit. We're looking at about 100 months in the past. I can go and adjust this, and this is going to update in real time and do a refit. I can also go and say, maybe I want to look a little bit further back, maybe the past 500 months. I can go in and see all the historical data and make the proper decisions about how this all lays out. One of the other key features we've added is the ability to specify a terminal decline. So in this case, we have a terminal decline rate when this well hits 0.5% at the yearly level, or the monthly level. It is going to go into terminal decline. That means it's going to switch from a hyperbolic to an exponential fit. I can adjust this and see the effects of it. Maybe I don't want to use a terminal decline. You'll notice this boosts up the EUR because it's more of a flat curve. Or I can be more aggressive in my terminal decline and say, hey, at some point, we're going to say that this well is uneconomic, so we want to curtail that. Additionally, we have settings of the minimum rate. So when we say that the well hits a certain point, we no longer find it economical to pull oil or gas out of this well. And so let's just go and bump that up a little bit. And you can see, let's make that a little bigger, a little more pronounced. You can see that it's at this point, we have determined that this well is no longer economical to pull data from. And so you can see that it becomes a dashed line. We still show you the curve, but you know that this will not be calculated in your EUR. Another feature we've added on here to help the flow of reviewing DCAs. As you're flipping through your DCAs, you're going to find some that are higher quality and some that are lower quality. In this example, we have a lot of scatter in the data. So our regressor did not find the perfect fit. You can go through, review this, make your decisions just like you would when you do your DCAs, exclude data points like we showed before, and really make this your own. But you'll notice that we have these buttons here for the review process. So in this case, this has been flagged for needing review. We can go ahead and say that this has been reviewed. And then this is going to automatically make sure that this doesn't get overwritten by the automatic DCA fit. So this is going to become codified in your application until you say, hey, we want to start over or the data's changed significantly. Again, really easy to use. We wanted to make this a very collaborative process so people can understand exactly where this DCA is in its process. Maybe it hasn't been reviewed yet, or maybe it needs to be reviewed. You can set that all right through here. I'm going to move on to the workflows. Workflows are a key part of what we do in PetroVisor. This is how we take all the different data sources, all these different processes, engineering processes, financial processes, and automate them. So when we look at this, we've added a lot of new functionality to make this really easy to use. As Brian said, this can also trigger Teams notifications, and this will help keep everyone in the loop as to what's going on. So if a problem's detected, it's going to be in a workflow. These new buttons on top allow you to see exactly how everything's running. So when we have schedules, we can quickly see all the schedules we have running, when they're scheduled for next, and how this all works together. This can become, as you have more and more complex setups, this can become something that becomes more difficult to visualize. So we've added a new view here called calendar. And what the calendar does is it allows you to see every schedule, both in the past and in the future. So as I look at here, I can see that at 9:20, we had a forecast workflow running. I can click on that and see all the details about, how long it took, when it ran, if there were any logs or any problems that we need to be aware of. I can also go and look at what the future looks like. So maybe I want to go see what's going to be running next month and ensure that we're going to have our data in time for our quarterly review. I can go and see this. I can see exactly how they are scheduled, and I can see how they nest when you have workflows that run one after another. This becomes really powerful, and you can, of course, modify these schedules right from this view. The other key feature is the runs. So runs allows you to see exactly what's been happening over time. So you can see that we have these workflows that are automatically scheduled. Again, I can look and see, okay, what happened during that? Why was it triggered? Was it a manual run or was it an automatic run? And then in the case if something goes wrong, like say you have incomplete data sets, those are highlighted as errors, and you can see exactly what went wrong inside that. So this makes it where you can really understand how PetroVisor and how your workflows are all running together, all through these simple tools inside the workflow module. Moving on to the ML, this is something that I'm really excited to share with everyone. And I think we've done just a really amazing job of bringing this in. I will tell you, this does get a little data sciencey. So for those of you who aren't familiar with some of the concepts of machine learning, I'll try to break it down, but we're all happy to have a call with you and discuss this more in depth, answer any questions you may have. So this ML allows you to see all your models that you're using inside your application. And I can go ahead and create a new one. And we wanted this to be something that any engineer can set up without having to go to, without being a data scientist, without having a degree, with just some basic statistics knowledge, you can really use this functionality fully. So let's go ahead and create a demo model. And the first thing you'll notice is that we have these different model types. This allows you to say, what are you solving for? In a lot of cases, you're just looking for understanding what is the output of this well going to be. So in this example, we'll be going through and looking at what do we predict the EUR for a well is based upon historical factors. You may have other needs for this, such as classification. Maybe you're trying to understand if this looks like a problem, or if you're trying to understand if different wells are groupable or using or share similar characteristics. Things like clustering can come into play there, but we'll just do regression for this example. As I go in here, I can go and say exactly what do I want to build my model on. So let's just go and pick a few things. Of course, as I said, we're going to use EUR. So we're going to look at our your estimated recovery of gas. I can just click add column. And then you notice here it's building our script. So you don't have to do any sort of coding or anything like that. But if you want to get more advanced, maybe you want to add some custom logic in here, you can really use the power of the PetroVisor platform to do that. I'll go ahead and add a few more columns here, like say true vertical depth. I can specify the units I want to be looking at. And let's just add a few other ones like proppant. There we go. So now I've gone and set up my data columns, and I say, what do I want to predict? So we want to predict the EUR. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And then the final step is setting the context. What am I looking at? So maybe I want to just look at all horizontal wells, or maybe I want to do something more advanced, like go and look at a geographic area, look at neighbors of wells. All those options, again, can be added here with just a few clicks of the button. Scope refers to when are we looking. So maybe we want to look at the, just today, because it's fairly static data I pulled in, or we could say, let's look at from all the data that's ever been there. These options are really easy to use. A more advanced feature is the hierarchies and validation scopes. So if you want to understand how the data looks in a specific formation, or you want to aggregate data, you can use a hierarchy. And the validation scope allows you to specify which data you're going to hold back for training. So when you're doing ML models, it's really important to separate your test data versus your validation data and your training and your testing data. And what we do is we make it really easy for you to do that inside PetroVisor. So you can say, we want to keep 30% of the data for testing and use the rest for that. So I'll go ahead and just switch to a model that I have already trained here. Oops. And this is a model where we are looking at what is our predicted IP90. And you can see that when you go into a model, the first thing you're going to see is these pre-training statistics. This is what's called a correlation matrix. And we have a really simple explanation here to kind of explain what this means. But basically, when you're looking at negative or lower values of -1, it's a negative relationship to the other column in it. And a value of 1 means that it's a positive correlation. So this is really helpful to understand Is your data clean? Is your data logical? Is there anything that seems off when you're just looking at the existing data on here? If I jump into the scatter matrix, it's the same concept, but in a more powerful visualization. This is looking at all the different data points and understanding the relationships between them. And this is just something that all of the data scientists, whenever they're looking at ML, they just want to understand before they even train the model. How exactly is this data looking? Does this anything surprise us? Do we have any huge outliers here? Is there anything we need to look before we build a model? Because we all know if you have bad data coming into a model, it's going to really affect the quality of the model in the end. Jumping into post-training, so this is after the model has been trained, we have a few commonly used ML tools like ice plots. And an ice plot is a individual conditional expectation. What that means is this is how you show how the ML model sees the data. So as the values of, say, the latitude change, what effect does that have on the model? Let's use something like fluid. And we can see that the model, this blue line is the average values of the model and how it affects, how this value affects everything. You can see that as we inject more fluid, we expect the IP90 to go up over time. So this becomes a really powerful tool to make sure that your machine learning is based upon something that doesn't seem surprising to you, that you see the logical patterns in this data. We see that sand doesn't have a huge effect on the ML model. It stays fairly flat throughout it. When you kind of flip through these, you can see that things like vertical depth, fluids, all those have big effects on the model. The PDP plots are what we call a partial dependence plot, and it's the same sort of concept, but instead of looking at individual data points, it's looking at the entire picture of the data. So it's the average effect that a feature has on a global method. What this does is just another way to understand, is your model overfitted? Is it properly aligned with what your expectations are? And just really helps explain exactly what's happening. With tree-based models, we also have a tree visualization, so you can see exactly how these decisions are being made. This can get fairly complicated, especially on more larger and complicated models. But if you're curious about how did it come to this answer, this helps give you that explainability to that model. When you're training the model, we have all these different algorithms that are out of the box for you to use. So you just simply select your train button, which algorithms you want to use, and how do you what do you consider success? Typically that's R squared, but we have other methodologies to use that will help you determine which model is the best. When you're doing the training, you say, how long do you want to train it for? And then you look at the cross-validation folds. Again, another data science term, but this is about how do you separate different sets of test data so the ML model isn't just remembering what happened on that value, it's actually going and separating it so it doesn't have that context of the previous one. So we might say we want to do 10 cross-validation folds. And then as I mentioned, the validation sets. How much data do we want to hold back for testing and training? All these values can be on here, and training is just a click of a button, and then you get all this powerful visualization. To kind of put this into context of what do we do with ML, it's used throughout all of our different applications. So we use it for things like artificial lift, water flooding, and predictions. We use MBR and ML models. So when I look at, say, this dashboard here, you can see what we've done is we've taken that same model we were just looking at and running it against the entire set of data that we have in PetroVisor. You can see that the predictions are very accurate. We have a few outliers here, but they're still not too far off. Very strong R squared. And you can see exactly what was observed versus what was predicted. So this becomes a huge point of the ML, is to really understand exactly how the ML is working, validating that the values match reality without giving it all the data to train on. Because if you give it all the data to train on, it's always going to just remember the entire set of data. Again, ML is just such a critical part of what we do. So we're really excited about having all this functionality inside the PetroVisor application. And if you have any questions or would you like to learn more, we really would love for you to either ask questions in the comments on our stream or schedule a demo with us and we can really dive into some of these topics. And last but not least, we want to show off kind of the output of all of these calculations together. So when you look at our economics dashboard, this is a very powerful dashboard that's using nearly every feature of PetroVisor. So we're looking at the existing wells, our current development, and future development that are based on those ML and MVR type curves. So this is going to allow you to see every well and how we see this working together as far as a cash flow basis. So we're looking at things like your expenses, your abandonment cost, all off of your data and a combination of public data to help you visualize exactly what's going on. So if I want to say, let's just look at existing wells, I can just click here. All of this is highly interactive. So I can say, you know what, let's really focus on the Haynesville Shale. That's going to go and filter this down, and I can see exactly my operators, my different financial perspectives. This one looks really nice. You have lots of green, not too much red. And I can even drill down further and look at things from a field level or even an individual well level. As I drill in here more, I can actually click and look at a specific well report. So we can see this well basically becomes uneconomical in about 2043. I can see all the information about it, all the calculations. And again, these are not just public data. This is built off your own commodity decks, your own abandonment costs, all the data that you have inside your different systems. We bring it into one place so you can visualize it together. So you can look at any piece of data inside the system, go and look at everything in an aggregate or drill down into individual well levels. All this comes together to really create a powerful visualization tool and help you make intelligent decisions about what we need to do, which wells should we shut in, which ones should we reactivate, and be able to really get into all that. So very excited to have any questions, any comments, but we have a lot of really exciting features and functionalities that we're always delivering. And so we hope that you guys enjoy this, and I appreciate everyone for watching us today.
Okay, thank you, Kenton. So quick questions. If anyone has those, please post them in the box. I also have a few questions that we normally get, and we can start with some of the data sources. So the petrophysics, geology, geoscience, it's all common sources that we'll connect to. Same with wells and drilling. So if you think, if you have Peloton products, WellView, we can connect to those systems either through an export, flat files, even APIs. Facility management, ops, health and safety, reservoir engineering, accounting, finance, P2 is another common system to connect to, BOLO, even some of those monsters like SAP, we can connect to those accounting and finance systems. So really, we haven't run across an application that we are unable to connect to. Some are a little more challenging than others, but if they have data within those systems, we can connect and automate that data extraction to pull into our unified data model. So, Kenton, you want to take this one from Riley?
Yeah, sure. So great question, Riley. And yeah, automated data cleansing is not a topic we focus a lot on here, but it is a key portion of PetroVisor. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. A lot of times we use the visualizations in PetroVisor to help you make intelligent decisions about, what is your distribution of data, what are your outliers, and that can just be a tool that you use to flag and look at the source systems. But a lot of times, what we really recommend is automating those rules. So that can be something as advanced as looking at the ML, seeing if the ML prediction is dramatically different from what the data was and flagging that. Or it can be as simple as, hey, if we have a negative production value, filter that out, make it null or zero, just so we don't have those kind of cluttering data points on there. So there's a lot of flexibility and automation in the ML flow. You can have Teams notifications if odd data appears. So there's just a ton of different tools that we have all about data cleansing, because it is one of the biggest challenges that customers face when working on large data projects. So do I have to use the P# script in the workflow builder? No, you don't have to use P#. When we deploy to our customers, everything is pre-configured, so you can just simply change different parameters on things. So for example, in Auto DCA, we're going to deploy that, and you can just simply say, okay, what is my maximum hyperbolic constant? What are my economic limits? Those sort of parameters without any sort of coding, and you can change that. P# is really a power user feature. So if you have more advanced functionality that you want to add on or bolt on to our existing workflows, that's available, and it is definitely not required.
Okay. So Kenton, unless you can think of any other common questions we have, we'll give it about another 30 seconds before we sign off. But remember, for all the participants today, the recording will be available on our website after today's presentation, so you can always take a look at that if there was anything you missed. And anything else you'd like to go over, please reach out to us, and we can have one-on-ones. We can provide our custom demos to you as well if there's a specific topic you'd like to cover.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Brian just said, which is that we really focus on the new features of PetroVisor. If you're not familiar with PetroVisor, we really just scratched the surface today. So there's a lot of content and different visualizations, tooling, and automation available in PetroVisor. All right. Well, I think that is it for today. I really appreciate everyone coming aboard. Brian, feel free to sign us off here.
Yes, and thank you again, everyone, for participating. Don't forget to take a look at that recording and pass it along to your colleagues, and reach out to us if you have any questions or, like I said, you'd like another demo.